Hi folks, and welcome to the 11th video in my Getting Started series for the game B-17 Flying Fortress The Mighty Eighth. Now in this video we're going to go through Quickstart Mission number 2, which is named Attack of the Axis. And this is primarily an exercise in practicing your gunnery skills, and it's an excellent introduction to that. So without further ado, let's get started. So we'll click on the new game panel in the top left and the continue switch in the lower right, and then we'll click on the choose a quick start mission panel in the top right, and then the continue switch in the lower right, and then here we are, quick start mission number 2, Attack of the Axis. Now as it says here, in this mission you must endure a savage attack by German fighters against your formation. Luckily you have little friends along for the ride, but they will be outnumbered, and in many cases the only thing between you and the long drop will be the guns of your formation. So as it infers there, this is really intended for you to move amongst the various gun stations within your B-17 and to practice your gunnery skills. So let's go ahead and play the mission, and we'll click on the play selected mission switch in the lower right here. So as the mission briefing kind of inferred, you really do get suddenly thrown into the thick of things. So I'm just going to actually pause the game here by pressing the pause key on my keyboard, just so I can get a moment to breathe and describe the situation that you're being thrown into. But before we do anything, let's get rid of that annoying overlay in the top left. We're not actually needing to know our altitude or speed or anything in this particular quick start mission. So I'm going to get rid of that by holding down Control and tapping H. Then we're going to go to the navigator station, and I'm just going to do that by going to the station menu on the left, if it will stay there, and I'm going to select the navigators icon and left click on that. Now that's taken us to the drift meter, so I just need to press the I key to go to the instrument view, which in this case the navigator is actually a map view. So let's have a quick look at what our situation is and where are we in this supposed kind of quick start mission. So I'm going to zoom out by pressing minus, and then I'm going to kind of just move the map around a bit using my right mouse button there, and then I'm going to rotate clockwise by pressing the 0 key on my number keypad. So as you can see, get rid of the crew menu there. It's the danger of always moving around to the edges of the screen as the other menus pop up quite often. Anyway, so the scenario is that you have obviously completed your bomb run, which was over the city of Bremen, and you're now outside of the flak zone, but you are well within the fighter zone, which is shown by the blue lines here, and they show the kind of the limits of the fighter zone, and they center on the various enemy fighter airfields, which are indicated by these large blue circles. So you can see we've got a number of enemy airfields which are fairly close by. We've got one here, and one here. Now what I suspect is that this airfield probably expended its fighters on your run up to the bomb run here. And we're now down in this southern area, south of Bremen, and so it's likely that this enemy airfield will be sending fighters up to attack us. And then as we move further along our planned route, which is actually really quite a bad one, why come all the way down here when you could just cut straight across here? It's actually quite good because it actually prolongs the amount of time you have engaging the fighters and gives you much more time to engage the enemy and practice your gunnery skills. So we're going to fly down here. We're then going to do a hard right, a very sharp turn around 90 degrees. And then we will be coming up here, and I suspect what's going to happen is that the fighters from here will be expended in this area, and then as we come up here, this fighter base will likely become active and will start sending fighters to us. Now I have run through this scenario a few times before, and what's interesting is you tend to get Messerschmitt 109s, excuse my bad pronunciation, coming up from this airfield, or certainly engaging you in this area. And when you get up to here, you actually get the Messerschmitt, dear, I need to put my teeth in. The Messerschmitt. I give up. Okay. the Me-262s, which are the jet fighters that were introduced by the Germans very late in the war. So this is actually kind of cool because you get to actually see and practice firing at those 262s in this area. Now the scenario actually is quite a long one. This Quickstart mission is a fairly long one in that it doesn't end until your formation leaves the fighter zone. And only then does it recognize that you've managed to get your B-17 to safety, effectively, because you're outside flak and fighter zones once you get to this point, and then you are heading on your way home. So when your B-17 gets to this point, it acknowledges that you have managed to fend off the fighters, and it ends the quick start mission. I will very likely, because this does have some dead zones in this particular mission where you're not engaging any fighters. So I'll actually edit those out of the video just because this will actually last way too long otherwise. I'll try and focus on the main engagements with the guns and yeah, try and keep it interesting for you guys. I will just actually say and admit that I am not very good in the gun positions, and so I cannot demonstrate particularly skillful gun skills in the game, but what I can do is give you some tips that have helped me. And I will also suggest you actually watch some of TAF in Exile's videos. Now, TAF has produced a bunch of series of Squadron Commander or Squadron Campaign series, as well as he's currently doing a historical campaign series. And TAF has got far better gunnery skills than I do. He's far better at controlling the gun sights. What I always find is that I tend to overreact with my joystick movements, even after I've turned down the sensitivity on my joystick, and I always end up overshooting. What I suggest is that you use small and controlled smooth movements of your joystick. It's probably the route to success with being able to aim your gun sights well, as opposed to large and aggressive movements of your joystick. One other kind of major tip is to listen out for the call outs from your crew members, and they appear at the bottom of the screen with a white background and red text, and they'll say, you know, bandit at 1 o'clock or something. Now, I'm assuming that if you're playing this game, you're probably into flight sims, you're probably into combat flight sims, and that you'll understand that when they say 1 o'clock or 6 o'clock, it refers to the direction the enemy aircraft is relative to your plane. And that's using the effective dials of a standard kind of clock face. So if it's 3 o'clock, then it's directly to your right. If it's 6 o'clock, it's directly behind you. If it's 9 o'clock, it's directly to your left. And if it's 12 o'clock, it's straight in front of you. The callouts will also say, you know, whether it's level, in which case it's of a similar altitude to your plane, or whether it's actually coming in from a lower elevation, or whether it's coming in from a lower altitude, or whether it's coming in from a higher altitude. So use those callouts to decide which gun station to jump to. The only other thing I really wanted to touch on was that what you'll notice is that the windows from your gun stations have actually got a lot of blemishes on them. And when you're trying to spot an enemy fighter that's in the distance and it's a small black dot, those blemishes can actually be really quite intrusive, and they can actually mask where the enemy fighters are. Similarly, in the turret positions, the actual gun sights themselves have I don't know whether it's a translucent perspex or plexiglass, or whether it's actually real glass in those gun sights. And I believe they were actually tinted in some cases anyway. But in this game, they've kind of modeled them and shown them as having a severe haze to them. And when you've got that haze of the gun sight, and then behind that you've got the plexiglass of the turret with blemishes on it, those two layers mean if you're trying to look through the gun sights and try and find an enemy, it is very difficult to do. And I find it hard to believe that in reality, the visibility through those two layers of translucent material was really that bad. So I haven't modified the B-17 game to eliminate that in this quick start mission. But when I do get to the mods video later on in this Getting Started series, I most certainly will recommend and I will show you how to install what they call the clear glass mods to actually eliminate those kind of excessive hazes that cause visibility issues in those main positions, in those gun positions. So I think I've rambled on quite a lot there. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. So let's actually get back to the game, and I'll cover any additional points as we go through. So I'm going to unpause it here, and I will then go to the tail position by pressing 0 and then A to go to the action view. So one of the things that often happens when you get the enemy fighters doing their first pass is that they will come from the rear. In this case it's saying they're coming from 8 o'clock high and 9 o'clock, and here they come, but they are coming from behind. So oh, terrible jerky joystick movements now. You need to try and lead ahead of where the enemy fighters are flying from. And it's actually a lot easier when they're coming from behind, but this tends to be about the only time that they'll all kind of attack en masse from behind is at the beginning of a mission, and then they'll kind of break, and they often will then start attacking from the front, and they'll fly by so quickly you really won't get much time to try and catch them in your tail gunner's position. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move through a couple of the turret positions. I'm going to go to the top turret, see if we can see where they are. Well, it's at 3 o'clock, so let's just hit the 9 key. I'm too late to go into anything. Manual mode to 0, and there you go, I've missed it entirely. We can hear lots of explosions. It's likely the drop tank, so they're coming from the front, so I'm hitting the key to the left of number 1, the back tick key, manual. Okay, well let's go back to the tail gunner. And this can actually be quite frustrating in that the callouts will often be way too late. Not always. Yeah, so I was trying to lead there, but as I say, my control of the gun sights is actually really quite poor, and it's something I really need to practice far, far more. This is my weakest part of the game, is actually my gunnery skills, or lack of them I should say. So 3 o'clock is the starboard or right hand waist gunner, and you can hit that, you can access that gunner by pressing the number 9 key at the top of your keyboard. I really highly recommend that you memorize the gunnery position keys at the top of the keyboard. That's 0 to go to the tail gunner for 6 o'clock. And we can see that that 6 o'clock fighter is actually moving up. And that one's got a little friend on its tail. And that's the other thing, is you need to be very careful you don't shoot your little friends. Okay, so that's from the front at 2 o'clock. You can see them coming in there. He's going very low. Ah, awful, awful. So that's key to the left of the number 1, the back tick key. 7. So let's quickly go back to the tail gunner. 0, manual, and this is 7. Well, he's not really coming in, is he? The one thing that always impresses me with TAF in Exile videos is that TAF is always very good at managing to track the movements of the enemy fighter squadrons, and he'll spend some time in the turret positions trying to spot the black dots in the distance that are the enemy fighters, and he'll do a great job, I should say, of tracking where they are and predicting when they're actually starting to move in. And he'll kind of spend a bit of time doing that. And he's actually also very good with the turret positions. Oh, I'm getting so yes, finally. It was a bit easy because he was coming directly at me, but it was a nice to get some got some good hits on him. Yeah, I said that was a lousy move up to the top there. Oh, that might be a little friend. I should leave him alone. Sorry, guys. Again, there you go. There's got another little friend on his tail. See, again, what Typhoon Exile is also very good at is aircraft recognition. And I think he's very good at recognizing the shapes of the 109s, etc., as opposed to the little friends. So got a few hits on him, I think. Yeah. But you can. The good thing is if you do have an enemy fighter coming in, look for the tracer bullets from your other B-17s and your other AI controlled gunnery stations, and they'll often, kind of help you pinpoint where your enemy fighters are and which ones are your little friends, as in those that the tracer bullets aren't leading off to. So this is an example of the awful kind of showing the markings and the grime over the sights. You see, this is one of those examples where you've got a translucent piece in the gun sight itself, as well as all the grime and crap that's all over the main plexiglass piece here for the ball turrets. So when you actually look at, I'll put that into manual and look down, you can see it actually becomes extremely difficult to make anything out. Yes, I know the clouds aren't helping, but I take it from me that if there's a fighter around, it actually becomes very difficult. And as I say, I will show you in a later video how to clean those up and get rid of that annoying grime and misty effect. So it's gone a bit quiet. One thing I just want to show you, I'm just going to pop outside by pressing F2. Now, with this, you can always see by moving your mouse to the right hand side of the screen when you've got enemy fighters in the vicinity. So we've got 109s in the vicinity here. I think I said earlier in the video, I said 190s. I was clearly incorrect there, 109s. And we've also got a friendly squadron of P-51s that are still with us. Now this will change throughout your mission, but this is a good place to come and see them. Now in a normal mission, you'll be able to click by left clicking on your mouse when you're hovering over this icon. You'd be able to left click there as I just did. Oh, we've got some 190s have come along. I think I've completely messed up in terms of the naming convention for these, but my apologies. Anyway, so because they're fuck wolves. Anyway, I'm not particularly good at knowing my aircraft, so I really apologise for my complete ignorance there. Okay, lots going on, but what I do want to say is that ordinarily you'd be able to left click on these and then you can sit in the pilot seat of the enemy fighters and you can actually take on the role of an enemy fighter pilot and attack the B-17 squadrons if you wanted to do so. And that's kind of cool to be able to do. In this quick start mission, left clicking on the enemy fighter icons here does nothing. But that's only because it's a quick start mission where your objective is to stay on the Allied side. You can also, in this quick start mission though, you can click on the friendly fighter icon there, the P-51 icon. And you can go inside by pressing F1 and take on the role of one of the friendly fighter pilots. So if you wanted to practice some of your fighter pilot skills, you could do it in this quick start mission. I think we're going to crash here, that's not too good. Yeah, oh dear. Let's go back to the B-17 squadron. Oh, great timing. We would have died there if I didn't have air-to-air collisions turned off in the game settings. So And this is that large 90-degree turn that we're going through, and that is a recipe for disaster after a bombing run. Such a significant and hard turn is something you should always avoid after you've potentially taken damage, or other B-17s have potentially taken damage from the flak or other fighters. So if it's after a bombing run, straighten up those your route as much as possible. Make any turns much shallower. Anyway, so I've kind of digressed a bit there. What I really wanted to say was that this Quickstart mission really isn't the best mission to be flying the fighters in. If you do want to fly the fighter planes in the game, both the Allied and Axis, in a practice mission, then check out Quickstart missions 4, 5 and 6, because those 3 Quickstart missions are solely geared around you flying the fighter planes and having dogfights. So check those Quickstart missions out, and I'll have some videos on those coming up later in this Getting Started series. Okay, so let's head back inside. I've been rambling a bit there. We missed a bit of action. But again, as I say, I think the purpose of this video is for me really just to talk through the various tips. What helps for me, so 9 level is pressing number 8 on the keyboard. Go to manual, and it's too far over, so 0 to go to the back, and manual. Is he going to come over far enough? No, he's... Oh, I got a hit on him. Yes, okay. So try and use your kind of mental compass in your head when you see an enemy fighter moving out of your view range. Do kind of picture which gun station he's moving into the range of, and then quickly transfer to that station if you can. So that's the front, 1 o'clock. So that's the chin turret, and there he is. And he's diving down into the clouds by the looks of it. No, he's not. He's going beneath it. Oh, I didn't really do very well there. I could have pressed number 7 to go to the ball turret. And I did that a little too late. So 0, checking the back, and M to go to manual again. Yeah, so I'm really not trying to demonstrate any gunnery skills in this, as it's patently obvious. It's really just to try and give you as many tips as I can over to what you should do. I'm not promising that I'm actually going to demonstrate those particular skills in this video. So learn your gun stations and use the numbers at the top of your keyboard to move amongst those gun stations. Also, don't forget to, when you're in a gun station, to occasionally press I to go to the instrument view for that gun station to check your ammunition quantity that's remaining. You already saw that there was a message saying I'm out of ammo, and that is very likely the ball turret gunner. The ball turret gunner tends to always run out of ammunition first. I think it's because he actually starts off, I think if I remember correctly, with only 1,000 rounds. Whereas most of the other gun stations start off with 2,000 rounds. I could be wrong there, but I'm just going off the top of my head. But I think that's possibly the reason why. So the ball turret gunner will often run out first. And watching Taffy and Exile's videos, you'll certainly see that happening quite often. And you have no control over that. The AI, as soon as you leave this station, the AI takes over that gun position and will fire away at any potential target. So you really don't have control. You can't say stop firing there, conserve ammunition. You don't have that kind of finite control. So I think we've actually, if we go to the navigator station by pressing 1 and the I key to go to the map, we'll rotate that round again. I'm going to zoom out by pressing the minus key on the number keypad. We can see now that we're very likely outside the range of this fighter base. We go to F2 and we can see that there are still some 190s, it's saying. I think we can see possibly one down there, although that may be a B-17 that's been lost. And the thing is, if you're in a real mission, you can actually click on these. If you left click on one, oh, that's definitely an enemy fighter. Let's pop back inside. 0, action. A, M. Didn't press M in time. Okay, blast. All right. So let's go back outside. So during the normal missions, what you can do if you kind of want to get a bit more of more intelligence than you would normally get as a B-17 crew member, you can actually come to the outside exterior view by pressing F2, left click on one of the enemy squadrons, and then you can move amongst the enemy fighters in that squadron by pressing the square bracket keys, either the left hand one or the right hand one, to cycle through the fighters that are within that squadron. And sometimes you'll find that they've actually crashed into the ground and you'll just go to a crash location. And it gives you that allows you to at least identify what the enemy fighters are doing, whether they're still kind of flying at high altitude and cycling around to come back for another attack run, whether they've crashed, or whether they're heading for home because maybe they've run out of ammunition, or that they're badly damaged. So you can kind of I don't want to say it's cheating, but you can get far more intelligence of the enemy fighters than you would have done in reality if you choose to do so. We can also see here now that our little friends are no longer with us. Now it may be that they've crashed, it may be that they have run out of fuel, not run out of fuel, but they may have run out of ammunition. They may be low on fuel such that they have to head for home. So we are now without any little friend Allied fighter coverage. So I'll head back inside, and I think I'm going to probably just pause the video there. I'll skip ahead and I'll see you guys back in a moment once we get some more fighter activity. Very likely this will be the jet propelled 262s. So see you in a moment. Well folks, welcome back. It looks like we've got some fighter activity, so let's see what we've got. We've still got 190s, so we might actually be disappointed. We might not have any 262s in this mission. It seems strange. I played this mission a few days ago and I definitely got some 262s, and it was kind of cool because I slowed the game speed down all the way, and it allowed me to get some beautiful close-ups of the 262s as they went shooting past. And they did go shooting past. They were extremely fast. I don't think I got a single hit on them. But again, you may say that's not surprising considering how bad I am at firing, or certainly aiming the machine guns. Now, I'm not sure whether that's down to the fact I'm using a HOTAS X joystick and it's just the nature of the response of the HOTAS X joystick and its dead zone, or whether it's just my atrocious gunnery skills. I don't know. But unfortunately, I really haven't played really any other flight sims, and so I really don't have any practice with other joysticks. I haven't really had any practice with other joysticks or any other experience with other joysticks, and so I really don't know. I started off with a HOTAS X because it was a great budget entry into flight controllers, into HOTAS flight controllers. And it works really well with this game, or certainly for me, but I really would love to move up to a more professional one, but I just don't know whether my skill set and dedication to flight sims really justifies it quite yet. I certainly may do in the future though. I would love to actually be able to try a far better joystick or HOTAS setup to at least see if it would work better for me than my current HOTAS X. Anyway, we got a very short burst of fighter activity there. It was a single 190, and I suspect it's actually headed back for home. Yeah, it looks like one squadron's moved off, and the only thing we've got left is a single squadron of 190s, or whatever's left of them. And they may actually be heading off themselves because we're certainly not getting any engagement. This is another thing with this quick start mission I've found, is that oftentimes the second half of the mission is actually very, very quiet. And it is possible to actually, in the real campaigns and the historical campaign and also the Squadron Commander campaign, to actually make adjustments to the number of enemy fighters that are dispatched from each field. and you can increase the game's difficulty by doing that. And again, I'll cover that in a later video when I go through how to edit the Rivers and Roads database file, which is where you make those amendments, those changes. Looks like this B-17 down here is struggling, and it must be a novice pilot because he hasn't feathered that engine. That looks like it's just windmilling to me. Anyway, so I'm just going to pause again there, and I'll see you back in a few moments once any more activity occurs. So here we are, folks. We can see that we are coming up to our last waypoint before we leave the fighter zone of coverage. We've had absolutely no more engagement with the enemy fighters, despite the fact that it's still indicating a squadron of 190s. But as I say, I suspect that they are returning to base. So we're on our final leg to exit the fighter zone. So yeah, I'll just be back in a moment again, and we'll probably be in the debriefing for the end of the Quickstart mission. Okay, so it's we're just about to exit the fighter zone coverage, and the 262s have appeared. So superb. So we've now got some Messerschmitts. I think I've managed to pronounce it right there. So let's head back in. 9 low, so 8. Action view, A. M for manual. Let's track this guy. M for manual, go into manual mode. There we go. So we can quite clearly see they're coming in from our left hand side. Unfortunately, they're coming in low, so our ball turret gunner is going to be absolutely useless because he's already out of ammo. Oh, where are they? Where are they? So let's have a quick look out of our waist gunners. So this is our right hand waist gunner, so they're heading to the front. So let's go to our chin turret. Okay, we missed him, but I'm going to go into manual mode, and I'm going to wait for those other 262s. There we go. There's one of the chaps. Coming in low. Where is he? Where did he go? Ah, blast, he went beneath the cloud cover. You see another one up there with his contrail. Okay, I suppose that's another good tip, is the enemy fighters will either often leave contrails, which can be obviously a useful indicator, or if they're damaged and they've got damaged engines, they may actually be showing a trail of smoke coming out from behind them, which is useful. Ah, that's useless. So let's go to the back manual, and we'll go down low. Let's see. There he is. Blast. Missed it terribly there. Oh boy. I hope you get the gist of what you should do. Certainly don't take my terrible aiming skills as an indication of what you really should be doing. So there's something coming in low. Yes, the 262 coming in low. Oh, I just moved again. Too aggressive on my up movement. So at least I got some hits on him. No, 6 o'clock. So 0 again. Manual. Oh, I think we just missed that one. They're doing some what look like some very slow passes past us. Oh, here comes another one. Yes, got some hits on him. It can be quite difficult when the squadrons split up like this, the enemy squadrons split up, in that you get the individuals attacking you from many different angles. And all you can really do is just kind of pick one and try, and if you can find one that you can track visually as it's preparing for its run, and then just wait for it to come into your gun sights. That's often a good tactic, and I've certainly seen TAF using that approach. I will put a link to TAF's channel in the video description below. I certainly highly recommend you check his videos out if you're not already a subscriber or you haven't already seen them. We're now looking at the right hand side, so they're around 3 o'clock high. We've got 2 heading forwards. Let's have a quick look in our top turret. See if we can find them. And again, you can see the grime and blemishes on the screen here, and it's just awful trying to track an enemy fighter using these ball turrets and these dirty sights. Yeah, I can't go any lower, so that's an awful position to be in. I would have ordinarily have moved to the chin turret, but I was talking too much, and I think as I've demonstrated in my other videos, my brain can't cope with talking and doing at the same time too much, so we really must be coming up to the end point of the mission. I'm really suspecting that we must be getting towards the limits of the fighter coverage. Let's jump to the navigator station by pressing 1 and I. Wow, we are actually outside of it, and it looks like the 262s. That's interesting. I haven't seen that before. Action view manual. The 262s obviously have a larger range than is shown by the navigator's map. Now that is very interesting. So if you are playing any missions that are very late in the war and you're engaging 262s, therefore there's a good lesson there that you cannot expect there to be no fighters or no 262s when you're outside that blue zone or just outside of it. It clearly, as seen here, you can get 262s attacking you outside that blue zone. Wow, looks like they may have given up now. Well, let's just go to F2 and see if we've still got any. Okay, so once we had 2 squadrons were attacking us. It looks like we're down to 1 squadron. I'm not sure whether they are still engaging us or not. I'll be very surprised if they are. We've actually been quite successful, at least in the fact that our B-17 has still all 4 engines running. And wow, we're still engaged. Oh, missed it. Yeah, see the crazy jerky movements I end up doing. I can't help but overreact. Even though I've turned the sensitivity on my joystick down, I still overreact. I'm not bad on small movements, but as soon as I kind of see an enemy that's like moving out of my gun sights, I'll kind of do a sudden hard movement of my joystick and I'll lose control and be completely useless at getting any further hits on it. Something I need to practice, that's for sure. So I guess what's got to happen is that the enemy fighters have all got to be completely disengaged before the quick start mission ends. So let's just go back to the navigator station, see where we are. Well, we're well outside the fighter zone. And if we now go to the exterior view by pressing F2, yeah, it's still got the squadron of 262 shown. What I suspect is that when those 262s are far enough away that this icon will vanish and then the quick start mission will actually register that it needs to end. In the meantime, I think I'll just pause the video here and cut out anything further, and I'll be back with you folks in a very short moment. And no, we are still being engaged, so welcome back. We've still got a 262. Oh, yes! Oh, and then the mission ended. So we had a single 262 trailing us. We took him out. Well, at least I think I saved my reputation there at the very, very end, hopefully. Anyway, so the mission has ended. So let's just click the mission debriefing. Yeah, the B-17 survived. So congratulations, your formation has escaped from the Luftwaffe, and the survivors have made it back home to fight another day. The trip home after the last fighter attack was quiet, as if the Luftwaffe had exhausted themselves with that effort. But you know that they'll be waiting for you again on your next trip out. Today, however, you've given them a taste of things to come, and the loss of those pilots will cost them dear. Anyway, I certainly hope my terrible gunnery skills haven't put you off, and that my other commentary has actually provided you with some good tips. Let me know in the comment section below. I really would love to get your feedback. If you like the video, please click on the thumbs up below. And yeah, if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. I've got a whole bunch more of these getting started videos for B-17 coming up. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day and take care. Bye bye.